Imagine that people have a date stronger than any decree, the longest night and the return of light. It cannot be canceled, forbidden, or rewritten. The sun comes on schedule, and this unites everyone without intermediaries. Therefore, this is dangerous for power. A common meaning makes people united, and united people are difficult to lead down different paths. And then the substitution occurs. To the most powerful point of the year, they attach a correct story, a correct name, a correct ritual. So you do not change the weather, you change the interpretation, and along with it, the behavior of millions. What will you choose? To leave people with an honest holiday of light, or to embed a new cult into this date to control not the days, but consciousness? Now let's look at how this looked in real history. Open any encyclopedia of religions. Find the section on the birth of gods. Now you will see something that will make you doubt everything you were told in Sunday school. Jesus Christ, born on December 25th from the Immaculate Conception of the Virgin Mary. At his birth, a star shone in the east, guiding 3 kings to the infant. Christ had 12 disciples. He performed miracles, healed the sick, walked on water. After his betrayal, he was crucified. 3 days later, he resurrected. Now turn the page. Egyptian mythology. God Horus, born on December 25th from the Immaculate Conception of the Virgin Isis. At his birth, a star rose in the east, indicating the way to the infant for 3 kings. Horus had 12 disciples. He performed miracles, healing the sick. After his betrayal, he was crucified. 3 days later, he rose again. Do you feel déjà vu? Scroll further. Greek mythology. The god Attis, born of a virgin on December 25th, crucified on a cross, resurrected after 3 days. Indian mythology. Krishna, born to the maiden Devaki. His arrival was heralded by a star in the east. He performed miracles with his disciples. After his death, he resurrected. Persian Mithras, Egyptian Osiris, Babylonian Tammuz, dozens of cults around the world. Birth from a virgin, star in the east, 12 satellites, crucifixion, resurrection. And all of them are born on the 25th of December. This does not add up. The most obvious explanation is universal archetypes, the collective unconscious of humanity. People in all cultures have independently come to similar images of the Savior. It sounds reasonable until you notice the details. Archetypes do not dictate specific dates. They do not set an exact number of disciples. They do not copy biographies down to the smallest details. If this is the collective unconscious, why are all gods born on December 25th and not January 1st or March 15th? Too even, as if someone took one template and rolled it out across all continents, changing only the names. One scenario, one date, one set of symbols. What event is repeated in all religions exactly on this day? Open any astronomical calendar. December 22nd, winter solstice. The shortest day of the year, the longest night. After this date, the sun stops sinking lower and lower. It pauses for 3 days, December 22nd, 23rd, 24th. 3 days of darkness. And on December 25th, the sun begins to rise. The day gets longer. Light returns. The birth of a new sun. At a certain latitude, in Scandinavia, in the north of Russia, December 25th is the first day after 3 days of complete darkness. 3 days of darkness. The sun does not rise. The cold grips the earth. And then, on the 25th, the first ray appears. Light conquers darkness. All religions describe the same astronomical event, not the birth of a god, the birth of the solar cycle, the beginning of the new year, the return of light and warmth. The Egyptians celebrated the birth of Horus, the god of the sun. The Persians celebrated the birth of Mithras, the god of the sun. The Indians celebrated Krishna. The Christians replaced the sun with Christ, but the date remained the same. Historians say, coincidence, randomness. But count for yourself. Coincidences do not repeat in 30 cultures with precision to 1 day and 1 satellite. This is not statistical noise. This is copying. Now attention. Open the Gospel of Luke, chapter 2, verses 7 and 8. Quote, "And she gave birth to her firstborn son, and wrapped him in swaddling cloths, and laid him in a manger, because there was no room for them in the inn. In that region there were shepherds out in the field, keeping watch over their flock by night." End of quote. Shepherds in the field, at night, at the end of December. Any farmer will tell you this is technically impossible. In Palestine, the rainy season begins at the end of November. The temperature drops. The pastures become unsuitable. All the sheep are driven into the barns. The shepherds do not take the flocks out in December. The sheep will die from the cold. At first glance, it seems the climate was different, warmer, and it sounds logical. Until you open the same Bible, the Gospel of John. It describes the cold and rain precisely during this period. Moreover, in Palestine, the winter rainy season starts at the end of November every year. This has not changed in 2,000 years. Meteorology confirms the climate was the same. Winter was winter. Sheep did not graze in December. Fact: the Catholic Church celebrates Christmas on December 25th. The Orthodox Church celebrates it on January 7th. The difference is 13 days. Even the churches cannot agree on when their God was born, because there is no exact date. Because the date was chosen not based on the actual birth, but according to the calendar of a pagan holiday. Which one exactly? Enter any old Russian village in December. Ask the grandmothers what their ancestors celebrated before the revolution. They will tell you Koleda, Kolyada, winter solstice, Karachun. Karachun is the Slavic god of winter, the lord of frost and darkness. On the longest night of the year, December 22nd, he reigns over the world. After this night, a new sun is born. Christmas begins, the holiday of the return of light. People made snowmen. These were idols of the god of winter. They appeased him so that he would release the land. Disguised people went from yard to yard. Masks, animal skins, horns. They sang caroling songs. They foretold. They burned bonfires. But look more closely at the details of these rituals. The carolers always went in groups, an even number, 6, 8, 12 people, never an odd number. Why? Because each pair symbolized 1 month of the year. 6 pairs, 12 months. This was a ritual of invoking the new solar cycle. Star on a pole. Did you think it was just decoration? Look at the shape. An 8-pointed star. Not a 6-pointed one like the Jews have. Not a 5-pointed one like the Christians have. 8 rays. 8 directions of light. 8 main holidays of the solar calendar. 2 solstices, 2 equinoxes, 4 intermediate points. The star on the pole is a map of the year that was carried through the village, blessing each house. Kutia. Grain, honey, poppy. Simple food? No. It is a sacrifice to the ancestors. Grain is a symbol of the future harvest. Honey is the sweetness of life. Poppy is a connection to the world of the dead. On the night of the winter solstice, the boundary between worlds thins. The living feed the dead, asking for protection and blessings for the new year. What does Jesus Christ have to do with this? Where is the baby in the manger? Where is the Virgin Mary? Coleda is a holiday of the sun, a holiday of the new year, a holiday of light overcoming darkness. Christianity came and replaced the sun with Christ. Carachun was replaced with the devil. Coleda was named Christmas. The rituals remained the same, but the meaning was rewritten. The official version is as follows. Christianity displaced paganism, a natural process. The new religion replaced the old one. But then explain one oddity. If Rus was baptized at the end of the 10th century, why was Coleda celebrated until the 19th century? 900 years have passed. 9 centuries. During this time, 30 generations have grown, but the people stubbornly celebrated the pagan ritual. Not Christmas, Coleda. What happened in the 19th century that suddenly changed everything? Open the collected works of Alexander Pushkin. Find at least one poem about Christmas. Keep flipping through. Mikhail Lermontov. 0 mentions. The greatest poets of the 19th century described every national holiday. They celebrated Maslenitsa. They glorified Trinity. But there was not a word about the ancient Christian holiday of Christmas. Now the music. Name at least one Russian Christmas song written before the 19th century. Can't do it? The most famous one is A Fir Tree Was Born in the Forest. It was written in 1903 to 1905, just 120 years ago. Jingle Bells? 1857. And before that, what were they singing? Silence. Characters of the holiday. Santa Claus appears in the second half of the 19th century. Grandfather Frost, 1841, the fairy tale Frost Ivanovich. Ask Grandma how old Grandfather Frost is. Answer, less than 200. The church claims Santa Claus is Nicholas the Wonder Worker, an ancient saint. Let's assume so. Then we will have to accept the following. The image of a jolly fat man with a bag of gifts and reindeer appeared only in the 19th century. Before that, no one depicted him this way. There is not a single icon where Nicholas the Wonder Worker flies in a sleigh with reindeer. There is not a single text where he gives gifts to children through the chimney. All of this is a modern invention of the 19th century. Santa Claus has displaced Jesus from the holiday. Gifts, entertainment, a red old man with a sack. Which child thinks of the infant in the manger when there are toys under the Christmas tree? Christ has become a decoration. Santa has become the center. And all of this, songs, characters, mass celebrations, appeared synchronously in the mid-19th century, all over the world, at the same time, as if by command. Look at the dates more closely. 1848, the spring of nations in Europe. Revolutions flare up everywhere at once. Paris, Vienna, Berlin, Hungary, Italy. 1853, the Crimean War. 1861, the Civil War in America. 1864, the Paraguayan War, when 90% of the male population perished. Great fires, Chicago, Moscow, San Francisco. Cities are burning. The population is decreasing. And then, after all these upheavals, Christmas suddenly appears, a holiday that has not existed for 1,000 years of Christianity. But look at the details of these conflicts. The Crimean War. We are told Russia fought against a coalition of Britain, France, and Turkey over the Straits and influence in the Balkans. But then why did all these powers concentrate enormous forces on one point, Sevastopol? Why did they not capture Petersburg? Why did they not strike Moscow? Why was Sevastopol besieged for almost a year? The Sevastopol fortifications before their destruction were star-shaped fortresses with perfect geometry. The thickness of the walls in some places reached 10 meters. These are not ordinary fortifications. This is ancient infrastructure built on principles that we still do not understand. The coalition did not capture Sevastopol. It destroyed it. It erased from the face of the earth what could not be appropriated. Paraguayan War. A country in the center of South America, self-sufficient, with railroads and telegraphs built without British loans, without debts to global banks.
And suddenly it is attacked by 3 neighbors at once: Brazil, Argentina, Uruguay. The war lasts 6 years. The result? 90% of the male population of Paraguay is destroyed. This is not a war. This is a cleanup. The physical destruction of a people that lived by different rules. The Chicago Fire of 1871. A cow tipped over a lamp, and the city burns to the ground. Granite buildings melt. Steel flows like wax. From a cow and a lamp? The temperature of an ordinary fire does not exceed 800 degrees. To melt granite, a temperature of over 1,200 degrees is needed. For steel to flow, 1,500. These are traces of the use of weapons that officially did not exist at that time. Look closely at the dates. 1812, the war with Napoleon. Moscow burned down. After this war, a total reconstruction began. The Commission for the Construction of Moscow, created in 1813, worked at a fantastic pace. In a few years, the city literally rose from the ashes. But this is not construction. This is unearthing. The first floors of buildings were covered with soil by 3 to 5 meters. The cultural layer of Moscow is not the result of centuries of dust accumulation. It is intentional filling, hiding the traces of a catastrophe. And 50 years later, a new holiday, Christmas. What is this if not an operation to erase memory? Now something important. Nicene Council. The year 325 of our era. Emperor Constantine summons bishops from across the Roman Empire. On the agenda is the status of Jesus Christ. Is he God or just a prophet? Debates ensue. Voting. By a majority vote, Jesus is proclaimed God. God by democracy. Remember this date, the year 325. Until this moment, Jesus was a prophet. Afterwards, God. Muslims do not consider Jesus to be God. Jews do not consider him either. Even within Christianity, there were discrepancies. Arians denied the divinity of Christ. But the majority voted,
and Arianism was declared a heresy. And now the details that did not make it into the textbooks. About 300 bishops attended the council. Of those, approximately 220 voted for the divinity of Christ. 80 voted against. This was not a unanimous decision. This was a schism. And what happened to those 80? They were expelled. They were stripped of their office. Some were exiled. Arian books were burned. Temples were closed. Over the course of several decades, an entire stream of Christianity was erased from the face of the earth. Do you understand what this means? If the council had voted differently, if the Arians had won, you would not have Christmas. Because one cannot celebrate the birth of God if he is not God. It was a political choice. Constantine needed a single cult to govern the empire. God-man suited better than just a prophet. Christianity was built politically. Emperor Constantine used the church as a tool for control. A unified religion unites scattered peoples under one authority, one God, one ruler. You will be told the church is outside of politics. It is a spiritual organization. Seriously? Kings are crowned by the church. Popes declare crusades. The Inquisition burns heretics by order of bishops. The church has always been a part of power, not above it, inside it. Now look at the images. The Mother of God with the child, the central symbol of Christianity. Open the textbook on Egyptian mythology. Isis with the infant Horus. The same pose, the same composition. The Egyptians drew this 3,000 years before Christ. Indian Devaki with the infant Krishna. Babylonian Semiramis with the infant Tammuz. The image of a mother with a child was used in dozens of cults. Christianity simply took this ready-made image. And now the oddity, the Black Madonna. In France, 272 statues. In Spain, 50. In Italy, 30. In Poland, one of the most venerated images. What is the relationship of the Virgin Mary to the black race? The explanation is simple. The statues have darkened over time. From candles, from soot. It sounds logical at first glance. But then, why haven't all the statues darkened? Why have the adjacent images remained white? Why are these, the Black Madonnas, especially venerated? Why are they worshipped as separate sanctities and not just restored, if it is merely dirt? The image is taken from the cult of Isis. Isis was depicted with dark skin, the goddess of fertility, the mother of all living things. Christianity adapted her image, changing the name to Mary. But in some places, the old image has been preserved almost unchanged. All Christian holidays are based on pagan dates. Easter is on the date of the spring equinox. Christmas replaced the pagan winter solstice celebration. These are not coincidences. This is a replacement system. Why? Divide and conquer. An ancient principle of Rome. The solar cult united everyone. One source of life, the sun. It shines equally for all. There is no division into nations, into languages, into countries. Everyone is under one sky. Everyone celebrates the birth of light. A unified cult. A unified space. Christianity divided people. Catholics, Orthodox, Protestants. Each denomination considers itself correct, labeling the others as heretics. Wars of faith.
Inquisition. Religious conflicts. Islam is also divided. Sunnis and Shia have been at war for centuries, although they pray to one God. Further division occurs along all lines: races, gender, orientation. We have been divided into small, warring groups. It is easier to manage fragmented cells than a united people. But let's return to Christmas. Look at the symbolism of this holiday more closely. The nativity scene. The scene of the birth of Christ in the manger. The infant, Mary, Joseph, the shepherds, the Magi. This composition is set up in every church, in every home.
But where did the tradition of depicting the birth in this way come from? The first nativity scene was created by Francis of Assisi in 1223. Before this, the scene of Christ's birth was not depicted. Why? Because the Bible does not contain a detailed description of this moment. There are no details. There are no indications of what the manger looked like, where the animals were, or who was where. Francis simply invented the composition, and then the Church canonized it as correct. Magi. 3 wise men from the East who brought gifts to the infant: gold, frankincense, myrrh. But the Gospel of Matthew does not specify how many were the Magi. It only states that wise men from the East came and brought gifts. 3 gifts do not mean 3 people. There could have been 2, or 5, or 10. The Church decided that there were 3. Why? Because 3 is a sacred number. The Trinity: Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. The number 3 pervades all of Christianity. The Church fitted the number of Magi to its symbolism. The Star of Bethlehem. A guiding star that pointed the way to the newborn. It is written in the Gospel that the star moved across the sky and stopped over the place where Christ was born. Stars do not move that way. This contradicts astronomy. Historians try to explain. Maybe it was a comet, or a conjunction of planets, or a supernova. But no comet or astronomical phenomenon was recorded in that year. The Star of Bethlehem is a myth created to lend divinity to the event. If you think that confessions formed naturally, theological disputes, different interpretations of Scripture, look at the dates. Why did all the divisions happen synchronously, all around the world at the same time? The Reformation in Europe, the schism in Russia, the emergence of new movements in Asia, all of it took place in the 16th, 17th century. It was as if the fragmentation of a unified space began on command. And what happened before that? On maps of the 16th and 17th centuries, from the Urals to the Pacific Ocean, Great Tartary is marked. A gigantic territory, hundreds of cities. Take Nicolas Sanson's map from 1656. The borders are clearly outlined. Free Tartary, Moscow Tartary, Chinese Tartary. The capital is Kambala. Dozens of other cities with names. Then, by the mid-19th century, these maps disappear. Tartary is erased. In its place appear the Russian Empire, China, scattered khanates. But here is what is strange. Take the map of John Speed from 1626. Tartaria is the largest country on the map. Larger than Russia, larger than China, larger than the Ottoman Empire. On the map of Abraham Ortelius from 1570, Tartaria occupies all of northern Asia.
On the map of Gerard Mercator from 1595, the same thing. Dozens of European cartographers who have never met each other from different countries draw the same thing. A gigantic state in the center of Asia, with cities, with roads, with borders. It is not a fantasy. It is not a mistake. It is the reality of that time. And then, in the 19th century, Tartaria disappears. Not gradually, immediately. On the maps of 1810, it still exists. On the maps of 1870, it is already gone. 60 years, and the gigantic country has been erased from the maps, as if it never existed. Koleida is a holiday of that empire, a holiday of the sun, a holiday of the unified cult that united all peoples in this territory. There is no division between Russians, Tatars, Kazakhs. Everyone celebrates the birth of light. One ritual, one tradition. Disguises, masks, divinations, these are rituals of the old empire. They are the same from Moscow to Siberia, from Ukraine to the Urals. Why? Because it was a single cultural space. Look at the details of these rituals more closely. Christmas carols are songs sung during the caroling. Take Ukrainian carols. Take Belarusian ones. Take Russian ones. The melodies are different, but the structure is the same. 4 lines. Rhyme A-B-A-B. A mandatory mention of the sun, stars, and the new year. A mandatory wish for a good harvest and well-being. It's as if all these songs are written according to one template. Or take masks. In Ukraine, a goat. In Belarus, a bear. In Russia, a crane. Different animals, but the principle is the same. A totemic animal, symbolizing the strength of nature. A person puts on a mask and becomes a mediator between worlds. He is no longer Ivan or Peter. He is the spirit of the forest, the spirit of the field, the spirit of the ancestors. Divination. In Ukraine, they practice divination with wax. In Russia, with mirrors. In Belarus, with a shoe. But the moment of divination is always the same, exactly at midnight after December 22nd. Why at this moment? Because on the night of Karachun, the longest night of the year, the boundary between worlds thins. At this moment, one can see the future. At this moment, the spirits hear the questions of the living. Now many will write, cultural exchange, borrowing of traditions, trade of ideas. Fine. Then explain the following. Cultural exchange does not create the identity of rituals down to the smallest details. Songs differ. Dances differ. Clothing differs. But Christmas rituals, snowmen, costumed figures, masks, divination, are identical from Moscow to the Urals. Word for word. Gesture for gesture. Only a single source can spread such precision over a vast territory. Only a centralized system. Koleida is a memory of a single empire, of Tartaria. And then the empire fell. The wars of the 19th century. Great fires. Cities were erased. The population was reduced. Memory was destroyed. On the ruins of the old culture, a new one is being built. Christian, divided into confessions, governed from Rome and Constantinople. Christmas replaced Koleida. The festival of the sun was replaced by the festival of the infant.
The unified cult was replaced by a divided religion.
And here the strangest part begins. And all this happened synchronously. The middle of the 19th century. Songs appear simultaneously in America and Russia. The characters, Santa Claus and Ded Moroz, emerge in the same period. Mass celebrations begin all over the world, as if someone gave the command, now. Now we introduce a new holiday. Now we erase the old memory. World exhibitions of the 19th century, Chicago, Paris, London, grand structures allegedly erected in months, then demolished. Why build just to destroy immediately? A demonstration of the power of the new authorities. Rus was baptized in the 10th century. The official date is 988, but Christmas was celebrated until the 19th century. For 900 years, Christianity could not supplant the pagan rite. Why did Easter take hold, Trinity take hold, but Christmas did not? Because as long as the memory of the old empire lived on, the people held on to Kaleda, the festival of the sun, the festival of light, a connection to the ancestors, a memory of a time without division. But take a closer look at the chronology of the baptism of Rus. Prince Vladimir was baptized in 988. He began to baptize the people. But the process dragged on for centuries. The northern lands remained pagan until the 13th century. The Viatici accepted Christianity only in the 12th century. This was 300 years after the official baptism. And now for the oddity. The chronicles describing the baptism of Rus were written no earlier than the 12th century. That is, 200 years after the event. There is not a single document written by contemporaries, not a single account from eyewitnesses. Everything we know about the baptism of Rus was written 2 centuries later by people who were not there. Archaeology does not help either. Christian churches in Rus began to be built en masse from the 11th century.
Before that, there are only isolated finds.
If Rus was Christianized in 988, where are the churches from the late 10th century? Where are the crosses, icons, and church utensils from that time? Archaeologists find pagan shrines from the 9th to 10th centuries, but there are practically no Christian artifacts from the same period. Version: the baptism of Rus took place much later, perhaps not in the 10th century, but in the 17th or even 19th century. The chronology is artificially stretched. 1,000 years of the Middle Ages were invented to hide the gap between antiquity and the modern age. 19th century. Wars, fires, epidemics. The population sharply decreases. A new generation grows up without a connection to the past. They are given new holidays, a new history, a new religion. But look at the demographic data of that time. Official statistics show a strange gap. In some regions of Europe and Russia, the population decreased by 30 to 40% between 1810 and 1850. Wars explain only part of the losses. Famine and epidemics account for another part, but the numbers do not add up. Take Ireland. The Great Famine of 1845 to 1850. Officially, about 1 million people died. Another 2 million emigrated. The population of the island decreased from 8.5 million to 6 million in 5 years. But here is the strangeness. Potatoes, the staple food of the Irish, were struck by disease. the harvest failed. People died of hunger. This is the official version. But Ireland at that time was exporting grain, meat, and butter to England. There was enough food. The famine was artificial. The British government continued to export food from the island while people were dying. This is not a famine. This is a cleanup. The reduction of the island's population for easier control. The same picture across Europe. The revolutions of 1848, hungry riots, uprisings, suppression, and then a sharp decrease in the population. And in 20 years, new holidays, new traditions, new memory. After the clearing of Tartary, Christmas was implemented. Either Christmas is the last nail in the coffin of the old world. What do we celebrate on December 25th? The birth of a baby whose date is unknown? Or a forgotten festival of the sun, the festival of an empire that has been erased from the maps? Look at the old rituals. Snowmen are idols of the winter god. 3 balls represent 3 worlds. A carrot is a symbol of fertility. A bucket on the head is a sacrificial bowl. Dressed as animals with masks is a ritual of transformation into an ancestral spirit. Caroling is the transmission of blessings from the gods. Divination is a practice of prediction on the night of the solstice. These are the remnants of Coletta, which have survived centuries despite the Church's prohibitions. The Church renamed them, called them Christmas, changed the signage, but the essence remained pagan. You sing carols, you perform the rite of the sun cult. You make a snowman, you create an idol of the god of winter. You divinate on the night before Christmas, you participate in the ritual of Coletta. And now let's look at modern Christmas traditions. The Christmas tree. When did it appear? The first mentions of the Christmas tree in Germany date back to the 16th century. In Russia, the tree was introduced by Peter the Great in 1700. But it became a mass tradition only in the 19th century. Before that, the tree was not placed in homes. Why was there a sudden need to bring a tree into the house? The fir tree is a symbol of eternal life, a coniferous tree that does not lose its foliage in winter. When the whole world dies under snow, the fir tree remains green. In pagan rituals, fir branches were brought into the home as a symbol of life overcoming death. As a symbol of the sun, which will return after winter. Christianity took over this symbol, but the meaning remained the same. Gifts under the tree. Where did this tradition come from? Santa Claus places gifts under the tree. But look deeper. In ancient rituals, offerings to the gods were left at the roots of sacred trees. Oak, ash, spruce. These were portals between worlds. The roots of the tree go into the underworld. The trunk is our world. The crown is the heavenly world. To place a gift at the roots of the tree means to send a sacrifice to the gods. Christianity replaced the gods with Santa Claus. The tree remains the same. Candles on the Christmas tree. Now they use electric garlands, but before they lit real candles. Fire on the tree. It is a ritual of calling the sun. To ignite the fire on the darkest night of the year means to show the sun the way back, to say, "We are waiting for you. Come back. Without your light, we will perish." The solar cult does not need intermediaries. Everyone sees the sun. Christmas requires church, priests, hierarchy, control. Divide and conquer. We have been divided into confessions, into nations, into warring groups. They gave us a holiday that we must celebrate without questions. A baby in a manger. Father Frost with gifts, a Christmas tree with decorations. But behind the beautiful wrapping is an operation of replacement. Colheita is a memory of a time when people celebrated light. Christmas is a tool of control. Winter will come. You will endure. This is what Colheita taught: humility and patience. This is what Christmas teaches. Look how the Church teaches to celebrate Christmas. A fast before the holiday. 40 days of abstaining from meat, milk, and eggs. Limiting pleasures. Preparation through suffering. And then, one day of celebration. One day when you can rejoice. And then again, fasting. The great fast before Easter. Christmas was different. 2 weeks of celebration. From December 22nd to January 6th. Yuletide. Every day, fun. Every day, songs, dances, divinations. No fasting before the holiday. No restrictions. Just joy. Joy of the return of the sun.
Joy of life conquering death. Christianity replaced joy with humility. It replaced merriment with piety. It replaced freedom with obedience. And it called this the salvation of the soul. The 19th century is an era of great substitution. Tartaria was erased. Colheita was replaced by Christmas. The unified space was divided into confessions. And while we eat Olivier salad under the sound of the chimes, we do not ask, why did this holiday appear only 150 years ago? Take a look at the dates once again. The 1860s. Santa Claus becomes a mass image. The 1870s. Christmas markets across Europe. The 1890s. Christmas cards, decorations, commercialization of the holiday. 50 years. In 50 years, a holiday was created from scratch. Songs, characters, traditions, symbolism, everything appeared synchronously, around the world, as if someone launched a program. Step 1. Implant images. Step 2. Create a commercial infrastructure. Step 3. Make people celebrate. Step 4. Forget what was before. Colheita lived for 900 years. Christmas was introduced 50 years ago. Which holiday is the real one? And the last question. If Christmas appeared only after the fall of Tartaria, if Colheita was erased along with the memory of the United Empire, what else have they replaced for us? What other holidays, traditions, rituals were rewritten in the 19th century? How much of our real history is buried under beautiful legends about infants in mangers? Subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to click the bell so you won't miss new investigations. Many more mysteries and discoveries are ahead. We will continue to search for evidence, ask uncomfortable questions, and explore what official science avoids. Because the truth is always nearby. You just need to want to see it.